Scramjet isn't the best vehicle in GTA. It's expensive, hard to use, and it dies in one explosive. On paper, technically, it's quite bad. But really, none of that actually matters. Because, despite its flaws, whatever its problems, there's no other vehicle that can do this. I love GTA Online vehicles, but after 11 years since the game's release, everybody has already released videos covering them. So this isn't a video essay or review. This video will be about how it feels to buy the Scramjet. Free aiming missiles with the Scramjet might just be some of the most fun you can have in any game. The jump, paired with the boost, can launch you over an enemy where they can't hit you, giving you a free shot to feed them a tasty missile. A skilled player pulling out a Scramjet is a very strong signal for the opponent to start stocking up on sticky bombs, because there's a very good chance they're going to be killing themselves to avoid a death for the next 45 minutes. So you see the Scramjet, the jump, the boost, it's all very appealing. So you go and buy it for 4 million and you end up stuck somewhere and get killed. Alright maggots, what you need is to go through Scramjet bootcamp. There's a huge learning curve to learning the movement of the Scramjet. The Scramjet, whilst in the air, can be controlled across every axis, which actually means there's an infinite amount of potential ways you could crash and kill yourself. Before you even dare think about fighting anyone with this thing, you need to learn how to control the car in the air. The key to learning this at the start is to use this button, the handbrake. If you turn the stick to the side normally, your Scramjet will roll on the X-axis. Not very useful for aiming. However, by holding the handbrake button, you will instead turn on the yaw axis, which is exactly what you need to begin aiming. So, jump, boost, get to a good position in the air, and hold the handbrake to aim. And fire. Easy peasy. There's naturally much more to learning the Scramjet than this, but this will get you started. And now you're ready to begin scramjetting against the opponents of GTA Online. Okay, it's also not quite that simple either. Maybe it's just me, but whenever I'm jumping around in the Scramjet, other players will see that as a God-given invitation to play shot put with my car. I'll be playing with my friends, when out of nowhere, a railgun shot from across the map sends me back to Moore's Mutual Insurance to reclaim my Scramjet. Welcome to Moore's Mutual Insurance. How can I help? Wait, this fucking Lewis just died to the railgun again. You want your car back? Being in the air for a prolonged period of time puts you at risk for an easy shot, killing you instantly, thanks to its lack of armor. So, was it all pointless then? Am I destined to remain on the ground, driving a boring armored car around for the rest of my life? To that I say no sir. If jumping gets us killed, why not learn to just jump better? Whilst you might have great technical control over the car, you must also need to consider the strategical aspect too. Most Scramjetters will jump towards the enemy in a straight line whilst lining up their shot. The railgun user, upon seeing this, will salivate. To avoid giving this player a free meal, you want to instead boost into a path where you fly past your opponent and shoot as you're flying by. This is best paired with boosting around buildings for cover, as you want to minimise your airtime where you are most vulnerable. Remember, a Scramjet is most vulnerable whilst in the air or being sat still. Do not pair these two together. Actually, I lied to all of you. The biggest threat to a Scramjet user isn't the railgun in all reality. No, it's actually the Scramjet user himself. Let me give you an example. Since the Scramjet dropped in 2018, there's been lots of unfunny memes about a relatable scenario that many players have experienced. This is just a rumour, and it has yet to be verified. But the player base would have you believe that there are Scramjet-specific magnets implanted all over the map. Let's take this area of the map into account. Now, if you jump towards the big body of water, where are you gonna land? Is it in the water? You are so correct. Gold star. The Scramjet is best used on wide open streets, with tall buildings around to use as cover. and not where there's a ton of pools and water. This is quite literally the exact spot on the map where you don't want to be fighting. This also goes for places with a lot of tight areas or objects that can block your landing. You want to always land with all 4 wheels touching the ground, as the boost only begins recharging once they do. Movement keeps you alive, and if you fail to recharge your boost, you can get killed. The boost takes 4.5 seconds to recharge, but if you waste that boost at a poor time, you could be waiting out in the open at a dangerous location. Speaking of your wheels, you always want to equip the off-road tyres when using the Scramjet. These actually give you a tangible gameplay benefit. So yes, I'm telling you to take off all those disgusting, degenerate, glitched F1 tyres you all have. I know you do, don't deny it, and use these instead. On certain vehicles, off-road tyres allow the chassis to clip into the ground, which gives you better speed when curb boosting, and more importantly, it makes it much easier to control the car in both when you land and when going over small bumps. But speaking of being on the ground, this is where the Scramjet is actually at its strongest against other vehicles. A Scramjet falling in the air is where it's most vulnerable to other missiles, and considering 99.9% of germs in this game are equipped with them, you want to avoid this position where you can. You see, not all missiles are built the same. They all have different levels of tracking. Against slower missiles, you have a good chance at dodging them if you're moving fast in one direction, even in the air. But for the most accurate missiles, they will stop at nothing to track their target, even seemingly breaking the laws of physics to do so. A missile will track its target until it either runs out of fuel and explodes mid-air, or hits something and still explodes. Now, in the air, there's nothing for the missile to hit besides your Scramjet. But if you're on the ground, there's a little trick you can use to dodge them. Missiles tend to aim for the rear of the vehicle, targeting the back of the hitbox. If you're driving fast enough towards the enemy, the missile will actually crash straight into the ground behind you, as the missile will be aiming for where the vehicle once was. There's nothing more satisfying than beating someone you probably shouldn't have, just because you're more disciplined with your jumps and boosts. The Scramjet digs deep into something primal within all GTA Online players. They believe that if you can boost, you should. Yet, alas, the humble Scramjet monk refrains from this barbarity. But maybe the real question isn't how to use the Scramjet. Maybe it's why. I mean, there are better vehicles to use if PvP effectiveness is your goal. So why have I chosen to make the Scramjet my vehicle, my in-game personality? Well, I think every fight in GTA Online is sort of like its own little micro story, happening within the larger sandbox of the game. For maybe like 15 to 30 minutes, you will have your hero and your villain, depending on the vehicle and tactics used. Everybody loves a good story, and the best have compelling conflict. And what's more compelling than a scrappy underdog coming out on top, and doing it with style? That's not to say that the Scramjet is weak, far from it. I think it's one of the best 1v1 fighters in the game. It's just that it's so fun, you want to push it to its limits, and fight groups of enemies in vehicles you have no business fighting, just to see if you can. But that's where we do find its limits. Against multiple opponents, especially if they have vehicles with missiles, you can only really dodge 1 or 2 before you get overwhelmed and die. To succeed here, you have to break the fight down into smaller 1v1 engagements, and focus on taking one vehicle out at a time. But depending on the vehicles you're fighting, one player could have a new one before you're finished fighting their friend. There's very few vehicles in the game that have more depth than the Scramjet. There's even still so much for me to learn. As a result, I doubt I'll ever get bored of using it. It's not the best vehicle in the game. That title probably goes to the Raiju. Jets are probably the best vehicle class in the game, and the Toreador is my worst nightmare in this thing. But none will ever give me the level of satisfaction I get from the movement the Scramjet provides. I'd rather get one insane kill with the Scramjet than 1,000 with any other vehicle, even at the cost of losing a fight. Thanks for watching, everybody. Comment down below which vehicle you want me to cover next. But with that, I hope you enjoyed watching, and goodbye.